Hello, everyone. This is just some of my thoughts and observations. Not that anyone cares about such a thing. Um, about a video that I'm watching right now. I'm at the 14-minute mark, and the interviewer, the presenter, it went into this prison. I don't remember. I can't recall at the moment exactly what prison it is. Uh, but he visits Deathrow and he goes to segregation where all the gang members and sexual predators are, and the, I don't know, serial killers, I guess, that aren't on death row. Um, and he meets this guy, right? This black fella who'd been in since 1989 or whatever it was. And the reason why he's in that prison is because at the age of 13, he committed double homicide. And his sentence was like over 125 years. So for like the rest of his life, he said that he would not be eligible for parole until he was 100 years old. Do you know what it is to be in prison? To be imprisoned by a larger force than your own? For no particular reason except for the fact that you're there? This is a completely different scenario versus someone on death row who describes themselves as someone that would be a repeat offender. And the first thing that I thought, I was like, that's a sociopath by his own description, right? You see, the problem with criminality or crime and criminality is that sociopaths and psychopaths are extremely good and adept at deception. Now, why was I put in prison? Well, apparently it's because I flirted with a prosecutor, and that's a big no-no. Because, in reality, I had a summary charge. I wasn't even convicted of it. I wasn't even supposed to be there. But I sure made the most of it. And everyone wants to think that they're some sort of expert because they educate themselves through the internet, or because they get a degree in criminology or psychology or sociology or anthropology, for that matter. I know the story of I know the story of humanity. So therefore, I'm an expert, and I can predict who is going to be a predator and who is not. And so I'm going to take these things that I've learned, and I'm going to turn them into swords and barbs to take down people that have wronged me in my life, for whatever reason, whatever grudge. And then these freshly minted, useful idiots find themselves in positions where they have actual power and actual decision making gravitas when it comes to other people's lives. Am I sympathetic to some of these people? You know what? I would side with the superintendent on this one, in this particular video. Do some of them have admirable or amicable qualities? Yes, they do. But if you turn your back on them, they'd probably stab you. They would stab you. They'd steal the keys out of your pocket and the money out of your wallet, and then go on a rampage across the country. You see, I thought about this, right? Because I had nothing but time. I had a year behind bars in a maximum security prison for something that I was innocent of, and that I was being held on remand for a fucking year, okay? So hence why I kept asking for fair and due compensation, because I provided you a service, whether you like it or not. I exposed the people that were the problems, that you couldn't flesh out yourselves. And through a process of different interactions that I've had over the years, you just didn't know. And that's the key that unlocks the door to undercover work. Some of the best undercovers were former criminals themselves, because community policing is about the community. So what do? You hire police officers from the community because they know the people. And it's not discriminatory, right? Oh, you have a guy that has a laundry list of 3,000 different charges and says, oh, I'm going to change, and then he turns around and he goes and does it again. I got some things to tell you here, okay? Because of Teen Challenge, I did not need the exposure to these people. I didn't need to know their faces. I didn't need to be there. But someone thought that I did. Someone thought that, oh, this is the thought experiment. Oh, let's scare him gay. Let's put him into a scenario where if he doesn't respect other people, he gets beaten up or stabbed. What ignorance that was. And obviously I proved you wrong. Because I'm a fucking chess champion. Do you not understand that? I am the chess master. And what happens with INTPs most of the time? That if left to their own devices, they become gangsters. They find a way around the system. Not as an exercise of sociopathy, but out of necessity. Because an INTP is one of the rarest personalities of the 12 of the Myers-Briggs test. And not only that, they have a tendency to be extremely intelligent because they value information. And information is the key to power. But you, some of you out there, you wanted the key to power. You wanted the Elder Wand. You wanted the Cloak of Invincibility, and you wanted the Ring. You wanted all three things. You wanted it because you thought that you were deserving of it. But you weren't. You weren't deserving of it. When I was young, right, I spent a lot of time around the farm, Teen Challenge Farm, because of my parents, right? Whom were involved in the financial side and fundraising that supported the farm in Lambeth. You know, I got to know these people for who they were outside of their drug abuse. And that's what I try to see in other people when I do interact with them. But most of the time, they're ruled by the drugs. You are the drug, okay? You are the drug. If you're addicted to something, you are the drug. Your behavior is dictated by that drug, by that substance, and by the people you surround yourself with. I learned a lot by listening, and when I said this to my father recently, it scared the shit out of him. It really did. I said to him, if you think that after all these years of listening to you, talk to your clients, and deal with other people, that I didn't pick up a few things in that time? Because if I didn't, that would leave me ignorant, blind, deaf, and dumb. We went to conferences with Teen Challenge in the States. We went to the international headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. We went on some large conferences having to do with drug rehab and Christianity. You know, my father at one point, I don't know if he still is or not, truly was a force to be reckoned with. He could fundraise. He could sell water to a fish, okay? That's how good my father was. But over the years, people didn't like him very much because of that. And I know it. I know it very well because of how he was treated with his contracts and with his employers, and by the fact that he had to sell his database to McFarland Rowlands in order to survive. And he built up that database from the ground up as an independent broker in Barrie and the surrounding area. And that's how he learned, right? Because he came up in the streets. He came up in the streets of North York, like Mount Mount Dennis, he went to a Catholic elementary school. And he went to a Catholic church. I think it's Our Lady of Victory. So anyone that grew up in that area at that time would know very well how hard it was to live in Toronto at that time, in that area, in close proximity to the Junction. Because the Junction was one of the most violent places in Toronto at one point. Somebody thought that I needed to be re-educated, and the only way that was going to happen is if I was put into prison. You were wrong. You were dead wrong. You made a huge fuck up. Because I'm an aircraft mechanic. Did you not understand that? Did you not understand that? I don't deal with people. I deal with problems. And I come up with solutions. Whether you like them or not. Whether your ego gives you credence to criticize me. I learned a lot about human behavior from these addicts, and I give them the credit that they deserve, especially the ones that remain on the straight and narrow and cleanse themselves of this dependency or this demon that as some of us would describe it, in the same way that we describe homosexuality as a possession, as a demon. And that perspective, that hardline, old school theology was done away with by meaner doers, well-to-do meaner doers, who didn't quite understand because they're young and naive, or they're actually psychopathic and sociopaths, and what they want to do is enforce their value system upon the rest of us to torture us for their own pleasure. And by the means of the internet, they have no wider an audience than they ever had before. They had no more victims than they ever had before. So they could just scam their way through their lives by using all of these new tools. You see, I was thinking about this last night. After transgenderism has run its course, what's going to be the new it thing, right? What's going to be the next trendy thing for a subculture? Are the satanic pedophiles finally going to come forward and say, hey man, hey, we're okay. We didn't do it. It was the devil. It was the devil, okay? Hey, no problem. I didn't snort that cocaine. It was the devil. I know very well what people do when they don't like someone. They don't like the look of their face, or the fact that they're more intelligent than they are. I won the lottery, okay? And I said this to my mom and made her laugh. It was sometime last week. And she asked me, how did you win the lottery? And I said, I came out from between your legs. That's how I won the lottery. And I acknowledge that. But I don't carry white guilt with me like an albatross around my neck. The albatross around my neck is the fact that I have not been compensated for my work. And that the people that ganged up on me and bullied me have not been prosecuted. That's the problem, okay? Is that even the people that we trust to enforce the standards of cultural acceptance, because that's what the social movements did in the last 25 years, especially since we let the academics and the crazy people run the nut house. And then they took advantage of the onslaught of information. So by overwhelming us, it became a distraction, and then they continued about their nefarious dealings, just like a sociopath. Just like the sociopath that killed a cop and is behind bars now on death row, and says that he would probably do it again if he was let loose. You see, this is the problem. This is the biggest problem that we have to face. Is that loyalty is no longer valued. Loyalty is now a currency, if it hadn't been already. Now, I know someone that's working in the correction system in the States right now. Like, actually, she used to work for Child Protection Services, CPS. And she's just starting to get familiar with the environment. So, I see exactly what in someone else, what I describe and what I'm talking about. And that's the naivete of rookies. I can't get that ear back, okay? I can't get it back. There's other actions that I've taken in my life to try and stop people or to prevent them from committing acts of harm towards themselves or their community by distributing ketamine or methamphetamine. But I'm just one guy, right? I can't be there to have my hand on the leash every time a particular individual wants to go about their own will. And I've failed more than once at it. So that's the thing, is that they will evoke. See these people that commit crimes on a regular basis, and that becomes their preoccupation. They will evoke sympathy for them, right? Or empathy. But the problem is trying to discern, of course, between a false positive or a false accusation and someone who actually did it in an age where people's heads have been screwed up so much that they don't trust the information in front of them. Because that was the point of the campaign, was to demoralize and disable the civilization to the point for which it was no longer functional. You see, this is what I learned from studying propaganda or asymmetrical or extraordinary warfare, as was published in the doctrine by those Chinese generals in the late 90s. People think that, it's just this little thing, it's just this localized thing. But no, you have to understand that other countries are not our friends. And that other people in prison aren't our friends either. All of this bullshit is exactly why I didn't want to get involved. And I can tell, that someone out there wants me to be some sort of law enforcement agent. But I'm an aircraft mechanic. Don't you understand? I'm okay with being a tourist in some of these scenarios. And now that I know what to expect, it's a little bit easier to do something like this, but not for free. Definitely not for free. When I was coming back from a video court session, I was passing in the hallway, and I probably mentioned this in other videos, passing in the hallway by a female CO whom was guiding a group of students, all of them women. All these students were women, through the prison so that they could witness how the system performs its duties. And so that they could see for themselves that what's in front of them is not exactly as it seems. And that they need to keep their guard up. problem is that this warning transfers into a person's daily life in a lot of instances, and they keep searching for these clues and these indicators that would provide them with credibility, and that they could be the hero, and that they said, okay, I caught this guy red-handed, he's guilty, so put him in jail and I can get a promotion. And in a lot of instances when that happens, you're looking at circumstantial or inadequate thresholds of credibility. So the question is, why would you trust a drug dealer over an aircraft mechanic? That's prejudicial, isn't it? My last words in this, before I watch the rest of it, is unfucking believable. It's unfucking believable. Anyways, this thing is from.
So you lost a lot of weight,
Right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. If you lose weight in prison, you know, that's a phenomenon. Everyone that I saw was getting fat, myself included, because of the amount of bread they were giving people. Bread. Anyways, so this thing is from Cold Trace, True Crime Stories, and the host's name is Trevor McDonald, and he's going through this prison. Anyways, I don't think this video is going to help anyone. I really don't. I think it's going to fall on deaf ears, and it's going to go to the bottom of the pile like everything else, because the warnings are not being listened to, and the result is a bunch of doctors leaving the ER.